Hey everyone, back for another video. This is actually my second attempt at doing this video because the last one got messed up. So what I wanted to talk about today is something I've been thinking about. I was thinking about the fact that when I was a kid, I never got grounded. It's like you watch TV and there's always when the kids screw up, the parents say, "You're grounded," and meaning they can't go out with their friends and anything. And I think my brother was actually grounded for a couple of weeks once when I was growing up, but I was never grounded. And there are two reasons for that. One is that I never really did anything bad when I was a kid. And two, I really didn't have much of a social life anyway. So grounding me wouldn't have been much of a punishment. I mean, I guess there was one year in high school where I did have a fairly active social life, but the other three weren't really that. I didn't go out much. And I was just reflecting on that and thinking, I guess that kind of makes me weird in a way because for most people, grounding them would be a punishment. And I remember even just recently I was reading an old newspaper advice column where these parents were talking about how they grounded their daughter for months because of something they found out that she had done. And the advice columnist was saying like, well, grounding her for several months is for teenagers. That's a pretty big punishment. And it's like, yeah, maybe for a typical teenager who has an active social life and goes out with their friends all the time, but for some people that wouldn't be much of a punishment. Just be like, okay, I stay home all the time anyway, so what am I losing out here? And I just started thinking about how so many people have these ideas of what everybody quote unquote does, that or what they have this idea that like what I've experienced, what I do, what I've seen, that's what everybody does, and yet everybody doesn't do it. I'm thinking about things like, I've listened to podcasts, I've read blogs where I see people say these things. Like I remember one time, I remember listening to a podcast where these guys were talking about girls they've dated, and one guy was talking about this crazy girl he dated, and the other guy's like, yeah, well, we've all dated that girl at some point. Not all of us have. Those of us who've never had any romantic success never have. Those of us who can't even get a date, we're a lot more cautious when even approaching a woman. We've never dated that crazy girl. Maybe that's good in some ways, but maybe, well, I don't know. And I'm just thinking about blogs I've read. Like I remember there was this blog I used to read a long time ago where this guy was probably, I think he was in college. So he was like in his late teens, early 20s. He was talking about how he went to a party and he got drunk for the first time ever in his life. He was reflecting on what it was like and how this is the first time he got drunk. And one thing he says is, everybody will be drunk at least once in their life. And I'm thinking, well, I'm in my 40s. I've never been drunk. I've consumed very little alcohol at all in my life. And I've never really had the desire to drink. I've never really had the desire to consume alcohol. And I've never actually like had a drink. I've only consumed alcohol when somebody mixed it with something else or, just like a small taste of it. But it wasn't really like I've ever sat down and consciously decided I'm going to have a drink. So I've never been drunk either. And I remember another blog I read where I was surprised when this guy was talking about young men doing stupid things as teenagers and then getting in trouble. And he goes, any 18-year-old kid who tells you he's never done something that stupid is lying. And again, I'm like, I never did any of those things. So I would not be lying if I said that I've never done anything like that. I've never, crashed my parents' car. I've never crashed any car really. I mean, I've, and another time I got a million examples. Like I remember when my brother and I were talking on the phone it was like a conference call between our father and some business associate he wanted us to talk to. And he's like, I'll leave these guys alone to go back to chasing girls soon. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm out chasing girls. Yeah, I mean, that's me. Totally. Truth is, I've never been a girl chaser. I rarely meet girls that I have any interest in because most of them just seem kind of uninteresting and shallow. But yeah, I've never been a very bold guy when it comes to women, which is probably why I've never had any romantic success. So anyway, it got me thinking about how, I've spent my whole life trying to just walk the line. I've been trying to do the right thing. I've tried to I've tried to just always follow the rules and do what people expect me to do, and yet, what if I really got to show for it? You know, maybe I can say, well, I've never, I don't have any bad marks on my permanent record or whatever, but I don't have any. I've never been an alcoholic. I've never, uh, I can say at least I haven't done this and this and this, but it's kind of left me feeling like those guys who broke the rules, those guys who did the bad stuff, they end up being successful in life more than I did. They got the girls, they got the jobs. Maybe it's like some paradoxical way they weren't actually punished for making those mistakes. They were rewarded for it, where, by surviving those things, it made them stronger and made them realize, hey, you know, I got through this thing. In the end, it was all right. So that gives me confidence in life. And to me, that just bothers me. Maybe it's just this kind of autistic compulsion to follow the rules thing. But like, see, I don't want to get bitter about this because I don't want to be a bad person. I really do want to be a good person who does the right thing and lives right. But it's like when you see that we actually kind of live in a world where the rule breakers get rewarded and the rule followers get punished. It just seems upside down, It's almost like there's just two different worlds where some people live in a world where, everybody breaks the rules or everybody does this and that sometimes. And they literally can't comprehend that some people don't live in that world. Like I remember one time there's this pothead kid I used to work with when I worked in a food service job, and he's like, and I told him I've never smoked pot. He's like, never? Not even one doobie? I was like, nope, never. And to this day, I've never smoked anything. But yeah, it's just, I kind of understand how the brother of the prodigal son felt when, his brother went out and screwed up and wasted his money and his life. But then whereas he was trying to do the right thing the whole time, and yet the father rejoiced more over his prodigal son's return than his good son's faithfulness. And, I know the story, that parable, I think is supposed to show how, the father says, well, my son was lost, but now he's found. And that's cause for rejoicing. It's like, yeah, that's true. But, part of you, somebody who does everything that they think they're supposed to do, who does the right thing, they want to feel like, well, don't I get credit for that? And I'm not saying that, God's wrong for, rejoicing over the lost being found or the lost being saved, because I do want everybody to be saved, but I understand the sentiment and it's easy to fall into it. And I guess if we're speaking about how it's opposite, to me, it's like when I hear about kids doing drugs or, getting drunk or whatever, I'm like, for me, it's like, I can't believe people actually want to do that because I never wanted to. So for me, that's the incomprehensible part. Not that it's like, you've never done drugs? Like, no, I can't believe you have done them. So yeah, I don't really know what my ultimate point with all this is. It's just some thoughts I had on the subject and how I kind of wish I had more to show for my attempts to walk the line, walk the straight path. Not that I'm perfect, not that I haven't made any mistakes in life. I'm just saying that, there's just certain things at least that I know I've never done, and I wish there was more of I wish I didn't feel like I was somehow in a weird, perverse way punished for not doing those things. Yeah. So anyway, I guess I'll end it there. Talk to you later. Bye.